Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to talk to you guys about this debate that's been out there a long time, and it's whether big compound movements like squats and deadlifts are enough to develop your core and give you a strong functional core. So let me put on my +5 out of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. Now you guys know I'm a big fan of people doing exercises that work their core as part of the exercise. I always tell people squats, deadlifts, all these things are great exercises to do, but rows are fantastic because you're standing on your feet. What's my view of overhead pressing? That you should be standing when you do it. In fact, what's his name? Athlete X, Jeff Cavalier even says that. He's like, look, if you want to be more athletic, you need to do all your overhead pressing standing. Don't do it sitting down. And he's got a pretty big following, works with a lot of athletes, and the guy, well, he's my age. I think he's slightly older than me. I don't think anyone's going to argue that his core and things isn't well developed. I don't think anyone's going to argue that he doesn't have a fantastic physique, even though he trains for athleticism. I mean, is that even up for debate? I don't think it is. He tells people that don't do your presses seated, ever. Stand and do them if you want to be more athletic. And core involvement is a big part of that. Same thing, I talk about chin-ups being a fantastic exercise because they do everything you would want out of things like a lat pull down, but one of the big extra benefits, they engage your core and your abdominals, particularly your abdominals, a lot. They engage it a lot. I'm big on beltless training, just like a lot of top-level powerlifters are out there, like Jamie Lewis, Dan Green, some of these world record holders. They're big on spending half the year or more training completely without a belt, no belt. I believe it gives you a better, more functional core to do so. But is all of that enough to develop your core? And I'm going to say probably not. When you think about your core, all the different muscles involved, and there are a lot of muscles, there's more than just your abs involved. You can find at least 6 different muscle groups involved in your core. When you start looking at it, they perform a lot of different functions. And here's the thing. If you want to be as fit and as athletic as possible, you really can't have too much core development or too much strength. You can't have it. It's impossible. You really can't. And so that being said, I think in addition to doing all those exercises, all this standing work, all this beltless training, and you guys see, that's how I train. That's how I train year round. Almost every exercise I do, with a few exceptions, is done standing. I don't train with a belt, yet I still do some extra core work, don't I? Still do extra core work, and I still advocate people do extra core work. And the reason for that is, again, you cannot have a core that's too well developed. And again, a lot of top-level athletes believe that. They teach that. I mean, not just powerlifters, guys. We're talking about football players and everyone else. And here's the other thing. Even you guys who are chasing the whole aesthetics thing, bodybuilding thing, you should probably want to be fit and athletic, and you should probably want a well-developed core. As you think about all those muscles involved around there, when you guys get lean enough, the more developed they are, the more prominent they're going to be. They're going to be a lot more prominent. They're going to stand out a lot more. So it helps even you guys, doesn't it? And here's the big kicker. You know, a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to do too much of that because I don't want a big, blocky, thick waistline. That's genetic, guys. You don't get that from training. You're very, very unlikely to get that from training. It's going to get more detailed, but when you really think about it, the guys you see with the big, thick, blocky waist, the guts that are pushing out and everything else, that's because of the excessive drug abuse. Alright, that's from guys using insulin. That's from guys using IGF-1. Alright, that's drug abuse that causes that. Even anabolics don't cause that. Because look at guys like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Did he have a massive waist? No, he abused gear. He abused anabolics. And I don't think that's subject to debate. He did. He was an abuser. Used a lot. He didn't develop that. Why? Because he didn't use the stuff that people are using today that cause that. It's drugs that causes that problem to exist. It's drugs. Furthermore, when we start talking about that, do you guys really think you're going to add that much? Look at the different ridges and all the things involved in those muscles. Do you know how hard it will be to add an inch to your waistline from pure muscle mass? You know how hard that would be? It'd be difficult. Like that would probably be literally a 500 plus pound squat without a belt. Alright, that's what you're talking about to gain a full inch around your waist. Those are relatively thin muscles. And if anything, any size, even if you added a 1/4 inch of hypertrophy to any of those muscles, they're just going to be more prominent and look more defined if you guys get leaner. And here's the thing, if you were to spend years developing your core, doing, again, all these big exercises, doing tons of extra core work for all these muscles, and you develop them maximally, how could you bring your waist down a little smaller? You just lose a little bit of fat. You honestly can't tell me that if you lost 3 pounds of fat, 3 pounds of extra fat through your body, 4 pounds, that it wouldn't take the size back off of your waistline that you get from that. Because a lot of the fat that we think of there, even around the waistline, is even going to be visceral fat. So if you diet down and get a little bit leaner, any extra size that you put onto your waistline from training and developing your core is going to be offset by that. And then again, the other thing to consider is that if it's all, again, deeper ridges and everything, because everything's more well developed, is it really going to look like a thicker waist? No, it's not. It's not going to look like a thicker waist. Again, you can diet the exercise off easily. And so, again, people get too hung up in this, and they get worried about developing a big waistline from doing this. Guys, that's generally going to be from having extra fat, and a lot of that is even visceral fat, and some of that visceral fat comes from the drugs that people are using. All right, so again, the extra visceral fat that might be in there pushing things out is again from drug abuse. Don't use IGF-1. Don't use insulin. Don't use these drugs if you don't want a thick waist. This is a simple solution, and you shouldn't be scared to train your core because of this. And that's for just guys chasing aesthetics. Now, if you care about being athletic, you want to be a better football player, you want to be a better power lifter, you want to be better at MMA, wrestling, boxing, any physical activity, particularly anything that might require physical contact sport of any type, you can't have a core that's too strong for that. All right, you cannot have a core that's too strong for that. Your lower back cannot ever be too well supported. Consider the number of people who hurt their lower backs doing various sporting activities. Your lower back can never be too well supported, and your entire core contributes to that. Your obliques, your abdominals, everything contribute to that, not just your spinal erectors. Can never be too well supported. If you get hit in the guts hard, I don't care whether it's someone kicking you, hitting you, a car hitting you, you can never have too much cushioning in your core of actual strong, hard muscle to help you. And if you engage in any activity that involves stabilizing the core, twisting of the core, rotation of the core, because throwing things, swinging a tennis racket, swinging a golf club, whatever it happens to be, you can never have a core that is too strong or too well developed. It just can't be done. It is always going to give you some possible potential advantage somewhere to develop your core further. So no, you can't develop your core too much. And so I would say, yes, we need to pick exercises, big compounds, that give us more core development. Deadlifts are great, standing presses are great, front squats are great. But is that enough from a sports perspective or fitness perspective to get the most performance possible out of your core? No, you need to do direct core work for it. It's probably the one set of muscle groups in your body that actually really does need some additional work thrown in, some additional direct work. It's the only one that absolutely requires it, can benefit from it. Now, most of the other muscles in your body, it really is optional unless there's something lagging that you need to bring up. But your core, I'm going to say it really shouldn't be optional. You can never have a core that's too strong or too well developed. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.